Hey everybody, welcome back to Giant Talk, the world's first OKR podcast, brought to you in conjunction with Coan. I am delighted to have you all listening once again and to welcome our guest, Ian Harvey from Elsevier. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lawrence. Nice to be here.
Good. So today we're going to be talking about, your challenge really of implementing OKRs in, I guess, what can only be described as quite a large organization. So what would be fantastic for me is if you could give us a bit of background about yourself, your experience, and then tell us who Elsevier are and what they do.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Ian Harvey. I'm the portfolio director for the research part of the Elsevier business. And I guess as a portfolio director, what you're doing is thinking about the overall makeup of your investment portfolio, but also how you deliver it. And if I look back on my career, which is quite a long one, I've been a portfolio director a few times, but I've also led technology teams around semantic technology. I've been a business analyst. And ultimately, a lot of those roles, I spent a lot of time thinking about, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of doing this? And often organizations struggle to answer that question. And, if you look at people on the ground, do they have a clear understanding of what the organization is trying to achieve? And in many places I've worked, I've been at places like GlaxoSmithKline, EMC, Pearson, really large organizations, actually in those cases quite a lot bigger than Elsevier. Right. Getting that understanding of the strategy and why we're trying to do what we're doing is quite a challenge. So it's always something I've had a big interest in, what I call lead measures of success. Do we know that the investment we're making is going to lead to a commercial outcome for the organization? And so that's always been part of my role at Elsevier.
Interesting.
And that's what got me here.
Okay, so give us a quick overview of who Elsevier are then and what they do.
Sure. Yeah, you did ask that question, Lawrence, and I didn't really answer it. So Elsevier, really, there's two parts to Elsevier. We are a business that makes solutions for the healthcare industry, including systems for training nurses, for giving clinical guidance to physicians, and training solutions around the healthcare industry. The part of the business I'm in is research, and what research does is help all the members of the research community, and that can be universities, institutions, that kind of thing, researchers themselves, and the people who fund research. We build systems and provide data, information, and insights for those members of the research community. And that's primarily based around, we started as a pure play publisher, really. And I think most people in the UK would have heard of The Lancet, is our most famous brand name. But we published 2,500 journals altogether, and getting on for a quarter of all science published globally comes through Elsevier.
Wow. Okay, so that's quite an impressive resume then, really.
Yeah, it's a decent sized organisation, and and we're making it well. We've made a lot of that pivot to become a true digital business, and as many organisations do, it's much more now about decision support, information analytics, that kind of thing, rather than publishing and things like that.
Sure. So what's the current headcount of the organisation then?
Elsevier is around about 7,000 people.
Okay.
And well over 1,000 technologists. I think we're near 2,000 now technologists.
All right. And
we consider it very much a technology business.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of traditional organizations that you come across these days actually are really a technology business, or at least technology enabled in some way. We're finding that with a lot of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of our new products are very much technology oriented. If you look at the kind of skills we're looking for on LinkedIn and seeing the Elsevier LinkedIn feed, you'll see machine learning, data science. Those are the skills we're looking for the most at the moment.
Absolutely, and that is a really interesting sector to be playing in at this time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very exciting, and you think about the kind of things it can do for research and for healthcare. It's very impressive and interesting. And we've got quite a big team of data scientists at the moment, but yeah, like everyone, we're chasing that small pool. But I think we've got an interesting mission, which is about progressing scientific research and having clinical outcomes. So that's our USP really.
So are you globally distributed as a workforce then, or do you tend to have one central hub?
We're distributed. So the main areas that we have people at the moment would be Philadelphia and London for research, but also Amsterdam and Aalborg. Those are kind of our main sites.
Right.
But we've also got people in New York. We've got a couple of subsidiaries, part of the organization in California. So and also in Frankfurt, we've got a big operation in Frankfurt. So yeah, pretty global. And then we've got support services and offshore in India and the Philippines. Yeah, so yeah, pretty much a global reach.
Amazing. What an exciting time to be part of that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
And how long have you been with them, Ian?
I've been here about 4.5 years now. Yeah, coming up to 4.5 years.
And have you seen much of a change since you were there, since you started?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for sure. I think you think about how technology itself has changed in those 4 years, and what, for example, AI is capable of in reality and data science. That's changed the kind of products we're looking to build and how we can impact our customers. And also, as a business, relating it back to our topic, becoming more focused on the difference between outputs and outcomes, and we're learning that.
Yeah.
And so there's quite a lot of change, but gradual, of course. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it never can. Not in an organization of that size.
No.
So that brings us on to OKRs then, really. I mean, what was the situation you guys found yourselves in at Elsevier that led you to looking for that new strategic framework?
Yeah, so the genesis really for OKRs for us was there was a big management conference in Berlin where the top 100 managers in the company got together and looked at what are the biggest three priorities for the organization. And
Right.
One of them was around really alignment and goal clarity. And 3 projects were created, and one of them was around goal clarity, and with the idea that everyone in the organization understood how what they were doing supported the organizational strategy. And that's a challenge for any big company. And we've just been through an exercise of training an awful lot of product and some tech people with Silicon Valley product group techniques. If you know Marty Kagan's Inspired book, so the principles that he talks about in that book. And one of the partners of SVPG, Chris Jones, was our trainer. And the goal clarity, as I said to you in my kind of bio, this is something I'm really interested in. So I volunteered myself onto that team. And at that point, we hadn't decided what strategic alignment tool to use. And having done the SVPG training and really grasped that and liked it, I realized that Marty recommends OKRs as
Right.
the methodology. So that's how we arrived there.
Interesting. Okay. So how many years ago was that?
That was about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So just when OKRs was starting to reach this little curve of popularity that this wave they're riding still then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I did a kind of search looking for OKR experts now, I'd find it very easy. At the time, because we wanted to link it to SVPG, I said to Chris, do you know anyone who trains in OKRs? And the person they recommended you'll know is Felipe Castro.
Yeah.
And put me in touch with Felipe, and that's where we started. But yes, absolutely, it didn't have the popularity and scope that it does now. It's really amazing. The last 2 years, it's really taken off.
It really is quite incredible, isn't it? Actually, I mean, it would be remarkable, I think, to compare even just the Google data around the search term OKR from then and now, and how many phrases are getting linked to it.
Absolutely, I'd be really interested. And you can see it's kind of reached that maturity where you start to see some bigger players kind of getting involved, and also as well as all the positive stuff that people like you and Roger are working on, and some other consultants I've met, you start to get some misinformation coming about.
Yes,
it's reached that point where people are jumping on the bandwagon who don't really understand the principles behind it.
Yeah, OKR fake news, as Felipe calls it.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
Okay, so I mean, you decided you wanted to go down the line with OKRs then. You
Hmm.
had almost 7,000 people to roll them out to.
Yeah.
How
So
did you
yeah,
go?
next. Yeah, so I talked to Felipe, and we developed a kind of immediate plan, which was to train a core group of people in the principles,
Right.
with a principle of kind of from a change management perspective, building some champions, having some people who understood the principles, who could take it back to teams, maybe in some cases train some other people, and also to think about how we rolled it out. So Felipe helps us not only with the principles and the training, also to put together a kind of an approach to managing OKRs. That was our starting point.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, really. You've got to have a change management plan, don't you, especially for a company of your size?
Yeah, absolutely. I know there isn't, to change to that many people. Organizations have this ability to spring back into shape very, very quickly and very easily, where it appears to be changing, and you get all the signs it's changing. If you don't have a change management program supporting it, doing all the kind of sensible change management work, people don't understand the why. They don't necessarily get the right coaching. You don't track progress to success, and it's not just an OKR thing. Any kind of corporate change needs that change management with it, but OKRs are no different.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the really interesting conversations that we've had, and I know we've met a couple of times and spoken over the phone, is all about this goal clarity group that you set up at Elsevier.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to the listeners what that is for me?
Yeah, so that group is, I guess, there were people like me. I mean, it started with a guy called Paul Fockler, who was at the management conference, and Paul is one of the founders of Mendeley, which is one of our core products at Elsevier. It was acquired by Elsevier about 5 years ago, I think, before I joined, but not that long before.
Right.
So Paul's a very established, and he was the main product manager at Mendeley, so he was a very established guy. He was the kind of leader of that team. And the other people were people from around the organization who I guess had the same interest as I did, which is this desire for goal clarity and to have a strategic execution framework in place. So we started off with about 5 people, but we also invited other people as a kind of, so that core team planned the rollout, but there are additional people who sat in the training and were, what I mentioned before, were champions, and they were kind of peripheral members of that team. But that team's pretty much stuck together. Paul and I were doing training sessions and OKR setting sessions a week ago in Amsterdam. So it's that team's persisted, and we've been through that cycle of change.
So which came first for you then, the OKRs or the goal clarity group?
It was the goal clarity group, yeah. So that was it. We've got the principle of goal clarity. We'd just done the SVPG training, and the connection was okay. They're recommending OKRs. I like the sound of them. Let's talk to. And Felipe was the person who kind of finally sold it to us, and really established the principles with them. I mean, the most obvious thing I love is just that things have to be measurable. I mean, as someone who oversees a lot of projects and as a portfolio director, I have a team of currently 13 project managers and program directors working for me. The question I'm always asking them is, how do you know that your investment is leading to success? And what OKRs do is they put measurability around it. And
Absolutely.
It's so powerful. So it made sense to me as an approach. And so goal clarity first, but OKRs as the mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Koan is a purpose-built solution for managing your OKRs, helping your teams achieve their objectives, getting them aligned, and absolutely helping them stay engaged. Sharing spreadsheets simply doesn't scale when you're trying to grow a business. With Koan, you can scale OKRs across your entire company whilst keeping the teams motivated and moving in the right direction. Now, Lawrence, there's lots of things we love about Koan, but tell me one of yours.
So I've got to say, one of my favourite things is that Koan just allows you to have a bit of fun with the OKR process.
Yeah.
In series 2, I think it was episode 3 of this podcast, we actually spent about half an hour, 40 minutes talking about the importance of making OKRs fun for your team.
Yeah.
And Koan allows you to do that perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, even just things like adding a GIF to your reflections adds some real personality. And I think I probably waste far too much time each week looking for the perfect GIF, to be honest. But it allows that fun throughout the organisation, and that's something that's really important if you're going to keep people engaged.
You are known for having the best GIFs
Thank you very much.
in the team, definitely. So if you would like to find out more about how to make OKRs fun whilst using a great system, then pop along to Koan, that's KOAN.co/giants, where you'll find also a great paper that we co-wrote with them on how to build accountability and collaboration using OKRs.
Okay, so what, I mean, I know that OKRs were recommended to you, but what is it about OKRs other than just being measurable, I suppose, that really work well for what you were trying to achieve at Elsevier?
Yeah, I think the thing is about OKRs is that they partner very, very well with good product management principles.
Right.
And that's really, really important. And I look at the teams who have done well here, and some of the boxes that are ticked is you need very, very good levels of autonomy. Teams need to be set problems to solve, outcomes to hit, objectives to meet. And OKRs give a really nice framework for that. So you can do things like you create an annual goal for a product team, but then you allow them to go and work out how they get there. You don't force that on. You don't tell them in Q1 you need to be here, Q2 there, Q3 here. You say to them, okay, work out yourself, your approach, and work out how you're going to measure your progress. And so OKRs really, really absolutely support autonomy. And yes, that's, if you think about, we look at goal clarity itself. I think it was a Deloitte report that said it's the number one factor in employee engagement. So, and as obviously so is autonomy. It's obvious that people want the autonomy to use their skills to do their job. So I think it was the way it interleaves with product management is the key thing. And you think about what's good product management look like? It's about experimentation. It's about testing hypotheses quickly and moving through them, and setting OKRs around those hypotheses. It's not. It's yes, you have longer term plans when you're building a product, but you need to break them down. And the other thing that OKRs do is this. Sometimes people want to be, or maybe they're used to being drip fed. So that what are your objectives? Well, I'll just take one key result from my manager, and that will become my objective. And yes, that's you'll know that absolutely.
So what do you do in that situation then?
Well, it's about education. Ultimately, I'm not saying there aren't teams that don't work like that here. Probably there are, but for most teams, it's encouraging people to take on problem ownership. And I think that most people do want problem ownership. They want the autonomy to decide, okay, how am I going to solve that problem for the customer or whatever it is. So I wouldn't say it's a big problem. Sometimes managers are used to kind of being directive, and it's a change. It can be a change for them as well. So there's a big trust element. But you think about modern organisations; these are terms that are bandied about all the time: trust, empowerment, engagement, and they go hand in hand. And I think OKRs really support that, especially when you attach them to product management techniques like Silicon Valley Product Group recommend.
No, that's really interesting. It's all about the communication at the end of the day from the managers as well, I think, isn't it? About what they want them to achieve as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to one of our best product VPs earlier today, and she was telling me about the way that, maybe getting to some of your other questions here, Lawrence, but the way she's had to really commit to OKRs and really use them as the number one, not the number one, the only tool for measuring progress.
Yeah,
she's had to. They talk about them on a weekly basis, and they're only short meetings, but they have short check-ins every week. She talks about them in one-to-ones with her team. She coaches them, but she also empowers them. So she's doing that completely holistic picture of product management and OKRs together, and it's really powerful. And the results she's seen absolutely, they validate her approach, and it's great.
Absolutely.
And we want to use that as a success story in the company and say, look at this team here. Look at how well they're doing.
So do you you have the forum to do that then, do you? Really share those success stories?
Not a formalized forum. We have a product guild at which you can do that, and we have kind of town halls that senior managers run. So yeah, we have in big companies there are always mechanisms for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's going back to change management. It's a bit like change management and communication around that. You can't use any one channel because the person sitting on your left loves email and reads every email they get. The person on the right, when they get a coffee, they read a poster and take it in and think. And then the next person attends a town hall or is on Slack and likes to read things on Slack. So
sure,
you have to think about all the different channels of communication when you roll out OKRs. It's not just about train and forget or anything like that. You have to keep banging on about it, really.
So these teams who are using it really well, with these product management techniques, they must have seen a huge rise in innovation in their teams.
Yeah, they've had some really great turnaround in terms of things like MPS, in terms of the amount of so in one case, number of help desk calls, just very powerful outcomes. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when we first spoke, which feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Because we've had to rearrange this call 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, apologies for that. It's on record there for everyone to
know. You told me about something, well, what you termed as the honeycomb of OKR adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think about an organization of Elsevier's size. You probably don't build it by doing a whole division and then doing the next division like you build a Lego wall. You think of a Lego wall.
Yeah.
You actually do it by, here's some principles, here's some training, go away and use it, and then you go back and find the teams who are doing it well, and they're the kind of they're the walls of the honeycomb, if you like, and you build out from that so that you've got. And you try to find teams in every area. So if I find a team in the research part of our business that's doing it really well, that's not necessarily going to communicate to the health part of the business. So you want to find a really high performing team in health. And the more local you can get, if it's a team sitting next to you who are doing really well, you can learn from that. The more personal a success story is, the more powerful it is. And it's about creating those success stories all over the organization.
That's really interesting. And I guess by its very nature, the honeycomb can almost come around 360 on itself, can't it? So that you get more localized teams as it's spread, because it doesn't need to spread up or, to the right and to the left. It can really start to form its own path.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to predict how change will bed in a big organization, but it's about giving the conditions for it and about really making it clear where it's working. People love to hear about a success story. When we go to these conferences, we want to hear some of the challenges that people have had, but we love to hear what they've learned that works well.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is because I think that's the one problem with OKRs, isn't it? Is there's no one correct way of doing any of it.
No, absolutely not, and that's why it's hard. It's because you can't just pick up, measure what matters with all of its flaws that we know about in terms of its examples, or you can't pick, or radical focus. You can't pick up a book and just then learn it. You have to experience it, and it will. But the implementation will be slightly different in every team, and the implementation will be slightly different over time. You will need to tweak it and keep working with it.
Yeah.
But the measure of success ultimately, and I remember we had a different CEO at the time. And we were talking about what are the measures of success for the goal clarity team, and talking about, well, let's get to 90% of the people understand the strategic alignment, things like that. And he said, and this is why he's a CEO and I'm not. He said, well, we'll see when it makes a difference in the bottom line. That's what we're looking for it to do. And with OKRs, because you're suddenly starting to say, here are objectives, you also start knowing whether you're hitting your objectives. So although it's very difficult to do, it can be very clear when it's working.
So have you seen a tangible difference on the bottom line? Because I mean, that's one of the hardest things that, people have to understand sometimes is I don't think the return on investment is necessarily that transparent where OKRs are concerned.
And I think the challenge for that is that there are so many elements that make a successful, and I'm talking about a product management organization, there are so many different elements that go towards success. It's very difficult to say, okay, OKRs are really 100% why we got there. It's also about, for example, in our case, Silicon Valley product group training. It's about teams getting empowered, but it's definitely a big part of that picture. And I can see that teams where we've embedded it well and are adopting it, they're seeing it in terms of their outcomes. Of course, you've got to have the right strategic planning, but if you're commercially oriented, I think it's actually one of the easier ones to do ROI. Someone, not, but frankly, we haven't done it. But because we don't, it's also very difficult to us to say how much we've spent. When I get involved in the OKR program, I'm not charging against a project code or anything like that.
No, exactly. Sure. So, okay, if you were to implement OKRs again, starting from scratch, a bit of a Groundhog Day moment, is there anything you'd do massively differently?
Well, yeah. What would we do differently? I would make even more effort to make sure we've got a really solid change program behind it.
Right.
I know it's something I said that we did to some degree. We could have done more, and I take a bit of personal responsibility for that because I'm a change management practitioner amongst other things. I think really getting that plan in place and using some of the models out there around change management is helpful. We could have done more of that rather than rushing in, and we can be like that. We're a very innovative, rapid organization, and sometimes we go too quickly at times. I think maybe we'd have slowed down just a little bit to think about, okay, let's understand the overall picture of change that we're going through. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I do think it's very common for companies of all sizes to underestimate OKRs as a change management practice, not just establishing a new goal setting framework. No,
you're 100% right. You just should have told me that 2 years ago.
Well, hopefully the people listening to the podcast now can learn from your errors, Ian.
Absolutely, they've got no excuses.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess that's the learning that you've taken from it. Is there any one piece of advice you think you could give to any listeners, say, who are maybe in their first quarter with OKRs or are thinking about getting going with OKRs?
Yeah, this is not because of who I'm talking to, but the one piece of advice I would give is get someone involved or bring someone in who has worked successfully with OKRs, who really understands the impact it can and will have on your business if done well, and has a bit of an understanding about how to get there. That's really critical. Don't just read the literature and think you're going to get there, because there's so many situational things that you learn when you've got someone as a consultant you can turn to and ask questions of. So that would be don't forget that. Get someone in and use that expertise.
And I promise that we've not paid you for a plug.
No, absolutely. No, you did. You told me at the start of the call that this would be the final question, Lawrence. And I thought, well, there's only one obvious answer to that, and it's going to sound like he's paid me to say it, which actually, no, you haven't.
No, I mean, along that note, I think the biggest risk of going it alone and missing out on a lot of the learnings and things and not doing the change management properly is that you lose the trust and motivation of the staff the more you get it wrong, and you only really get one or two good goes at it.
Absolutely, that's so right. And there's so much change in big organizations that people can get this kind of change fatigue creeping in.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be aware of that. As you say, you
Spot
don't
on.
get multiple goes at it. You need to do it right.
Yeah, 100%. Ian, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. It's been excellent.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Lawrence. Very interesting.
I'm sure the listeners may even have some questions. So look up Ian Harvey at Elsevier on LinkedIn, and I'm sure if you have any questions, he won't mind dropping you a quick note.
Absolutely, more than happy. Yeah, it's always interesting to kind of hear other people's experiences in OKRs and their journey they're going on, because I learned through that as well. But yeah, happy to share the knowledge I have.
That's fantastic. Really appreciate that. But apart from that, thank you again, everybody, for listening. That was another episode of Giant Talk, and tune in next week for the next one. Cheers, everyone. Bye.